So an older snapshot here. I mentioned recently that, well, not recently, a while ago, that I found a folder on my hard disk full of snapshots that basically I had originally been planning to use and then never got around to using them. So I'm running out of modern or up-to-date snapshots, and I figured, you know what, I'll have a look at some of these older ones, and I came across this one from the KB2, back from when I was grinding the KB2. This is an older snapshot, but anyway, we're going to put a shot into the KV-1S. There's the first victim. And then we're going to move across. We're going to put a shot into the Panzer SFL. Pity the Stug didn't stay close enough for me to pick up a secondary damage there, but okay, 2 kills, 2 shots. And then we'll move up when we've got the SU-100. There we go, 3 kills, 3 shots. And KV-2, okay, enemy KV-2. Is this going to be 4 shots, 4 kills? No, we hit his gun mantlet and leave him on 9 health. Okay, well, 3 shots, 3 kills, 1 shot, and okay, decent damage, but KV-2, it's a little bit more than just its howitzer. It's a little bit more than just its gun. Come on, there we go, 5 shots and 4 kills, okay. Stug down here, still a Stug below me somewhere, there he is. Okay, we're gonna shoot him. Speed it down to normal speed, and we miss. Okay, a little bit of lag, because as I say, it's an older replay, but sometimes you don't have to use the howitzer. We can just use the weight of our tank. So, yes, KV-2. It's a little bit of a ramming monster when you want it to be. Hi folks, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Object 263, the Russian Tier 10 tank destroyer, at least one of them, the one that isn't the Object 268. And it's probably rarer to see one of these on the battlefield than it is to see a 268, because even though I think technically, you know, in my opinion, this is a better tank, it's more fun to play, and it's more competitive as a Tier 10 than the 268 is, you know, you see more 268s, and that's probably because the grind to the 268 is much easier. You know, the SU-152 is a good Tier 7, which moves on to a very good Tier 8 at the ISU-152, which unlocks the BL-10, which you use on the Tier 9, and the only module you need to unlock on the Tier 9 is the tracks, and then you have a perfectly playable Tier 9, and the grind just to the Tier 10 on the other line is just much easier. And not only that, but the tanks are competitive. The SU-152, ISU, Object 704, they're all competitive for their tier. And then you've got this line, and this line is not as popular because you've got tanks that perhaps aren't as good. You know, SU-101 or SU-100M1 is very lackluster, probably even a little bit underpowered for its tier. The SU-101, very tricky tank to play, very difficult tank to play well. And then you've got the SU-12254, which was one of my curse tanks, which I aced and sold and ended up buying this one. You know, again, it's okay. That one is okay, but again, you know, it's perhaps not seen as a very strong Tier 9 TD. So yeah, I guess it's not surprising to see more 268s than 263s on the battlefield, but that doesn't mean this is a bad tank. And I will say it's worth the grind, at least in my opinion. I think this is a very fun tank to play. Anyway, moving on, because this is quite a long game. The Object 263 was a concept tank, only it never even existed in blueprint or in prototype. It only existed in blueprints, and of its blueprints, it existed in 3 different forms. But basically, in 1950, shortly after the cancellation of the IS-7 project, despite the IS-7, I believe there were about 30 IS-7s built, and it was a very successful design. It passed all its trials. Everyone loved the IS-7, except, you know, Russian High Command, because there were logistical reasons for cancelling the IS-7, not because of any problem with the tank, but simply the tank was just too heavy. It weighed 70 tons, and that meant it was too heavy to carry on a train. It was too heavy for Russian roads or Russian bridges, so it was cancelled But that didn't end there because, you know, the IS-7 was a perfectly good tank. And there were a lot of proposals to build other tanks based on the IS-7 chassis. One of those alternative vehicles was the Object 261, which is the Tier 10 Russian artillery, which is based on an IS-7, and in-game is historically inaccurate because it's supposed to have IS-7 armor and doesn't in-game, but maybe Tier 10 artillery with IS-7 armor might be a little bit OP, but as I say, we have the SPG version of the IS-7 alternative in the Object 261, and then we have the TD version of the IS-7 in the Object 263. So there were 3 designs put together for this particular tank, and this is kind of by the end of the project, basically all 3 designs had been merged into one to actually design this particular tank. So it took features from all 3 designs and basically came up with this one, which, as I say, was called the 263, but it was based on the IS-7. It's an IS-7. It is an IS-7. Now, one of the designs, or one of the things that happened, was they removed the pike nose from the front of the tank and replaced it with flat armor. But in order to maintain the good frontal armor of the IS-7, they added a large sheet of metal. You can actually see it here. I will say the model for this tank in game is extremely accurate, but you can see this huge metal sheet here that's been welded to the front of the tank, and that was to make up for the loss of armor due to the loss of the pike nose. They simply just bolted a pile of armor onto the front of the tank. So it basically has frontally the IS-7's armor, even though it doesn't have the pike nose. It has the IS-7's engine, it has the IS-7's tracks, the IS-7's suspension, the IS-7's gearbox, the IS-7's wheels. It's basically an IS-7, and it has the 130mm gun, well, based on the IS-7's gun, but it's actually a later variation. So these were all things that were planned to be done to this tank had it been built. The 130mm was rear mounted, as you can see from here, and there were a few problems with rear mounting a very long 130mm gun on this particular tank. There were 3 major problems. First of all, the recoil was far too powerful, and that meant that the tank had to use buckets. Again, as I say, the modeling is very good. So because the recoil was so powerful, the front of the tank would lift up and force the tank backwards. So in order to fire its gun, it had to employ these buckets or spades or blades or whatever you want to call them. I don't know the technical term. Someone told me once, but I've forgotten. But these were basically needed to fire the gun, which meant that the tank had to fire from a stationary position. It couldn't actually fire on the move. Otherwise, it would tear itself apart. So that was the first problem. And as I say, they're modeled in on the tank. You may not have realized why they're here. The second problem was, if you look here, there's absolutely no room for the crew between the ammo and the rear-mounted gun. The gun mount is at the rear of the tank. It's basically at the... You know, there's absolutely no room for the crew here. So this was another hypothetical problem for the tank had it been built. And the third problem was, because the gun was rear-mounted, you could see how close the rear of the gun or the breech is to the back of the tank. And that meant that the recoil would actually burst through. It would break the back of the tank every time it fired. So the designs called for an ingenious solution to all 3 problems. First of all, the high recoil, secondly, no room for the crew, and third, the recoil breaking the back of the tank. So you can see the solution here, and again, as I say, the modeling is awesome because this was only a concept design, but you can see all of these hinges. There's a bunch of hinges here, and this meant that the entire back of the tank would actually disconnect and move down, or could be lowered so that the spades could dig into the ground. And then there was a secondary platform here, and what this would do is it would fold down into an L shape and basically become the floor. It would add floor to the tank. So you had the rear of the tank dropping down. You had a second panel here dropping down into an L shape that would increase the floor space that the crew had to work on. So that meant that there was no rear to the tank. It could dig in, it could put the spades in, the recoil wouldn't tear the tank to parts. Because the back flap had been moved down, the tank could fire and the gun's recoil wouldn't break the back of the tank, and there was finally enough room for the crew to be able to move around on this flattened part as the floor and be able to load and fire the guns. So just this one little design, the flap at the back of the tank, fixed all three major problems with rear mounting 130mm on the tank, or at least that was the proposal, or that was the idea. Now, there was still a minor problem, because rear mounting the gun and even giving the crew more work or more room to work in, it still wasn't enough room. It was still too cramped. It was still too difficult to load and reload the gun. It would still take too much time. And the hypothetical, again, it's all hypothetical because the tank was never built, but it was understood that the crew would only be able to fire about 1.5 rounds a minute. So this gun in-game, or this tank in-game, A, can fire in the move, which is not historically accurate, and B, it gets around, with crew skills and equipment and consumables, you can get up to around 6 rounds a minute. Yeah, that's completely historically inaccurate. This tank was designed to fire about 1.5 rounds a minute. Now, that may seem very, very slow, but you got to remember this was designed in 1950, and it had a 130mm gun, so this was a gun that was going to be dealing with European tanks or NATO tanks that were still using 75mm, that were still using 90mm or had been upgraded to 90mm, and none of them were particularly well armoured. And this was a gun that could accurately hit targets at 2 kilometers away and still have enough pen at 2 kilometers to go through 180mm of armour. So it was figured that the tank, should it be put into production, even with a slow rate of fire, was more than enough to be able to deal with NATO tanks. So anyway, the plans were submitted and a mock version of the tank was started, but before it could get much further, the project was cancelled by Moscow. Because for the same reason the IS-7 was cancelled. Even though the TD was actually 8 tons lighter than the IS-7, so this comes in at around 60 tons. Even though it was around 8 tons lighter than the IS-7, it would still have been far too heavy for easy transport or use on Russian roads, bridges, or the rail network. So the project never got the go-ahead, but there we go. That's the Object 263 if it had been actually built. Now, in-game, I love this tank. Yes, it may weigh 60 tons, but it gets a 1900 horsepower engine. And that means its power-to-weight ratio is over 17. That means it can accelerate quite quickly, it's quite mobile, and not only is it quick and has good acceleration, but it can get up to 55 kilometers an hour. So it's heavy, and it's quick, and that means it's a very, very good rammer. Although I don't think I've gotten any amazing ram kills in it yet, but it is a very, very good rammer, and maybe you can get enemy tanks to ram themselves to death on you as well. The reverse speed is a very, very good 20 kilometers an hour, and the frontal armor shows its IS-7 heritage. Because a lot of people seem to be having problems dealing with Object 263s. I know Tonza, every time he sees a 263 on the enemy team, groans. He'd far rather fight against 268s. But, it shows its IS-7 heritage because the armor is incredibly effective. You could see that it's sloped, even though it doesn't have the pike nose, but that extra armor plate that was added to the front of the tank means the front gets up to about 400 meters or millimeters of armor. This is exceptionally good. It's going to cause everyone problems unless they're top tier 10 TDs firing premium ammo, but very few people are going to pen the upper plate of this tank, and then you've got the upper hull here, and again you can see how incredibly effective it is. No one is going to be penning this unless they're firing premium ammo. Very few regular guns in the game are going to have enough pen to go through this, so we've got about 320 millimeters of armor depending on where you hit it. The gun mantlet is spaced armor, and again that gets you up to 524. A lot of people are saying shoot the gun mantlet. Now I do believe it got nerfed. It got nerfed in a recent patch. I didn't read up the specs on that, but at the moment you can see that there are areas of the gun mantlet, if you hit the edges, 526. However, if you hit nearer the gun, and you hit the flat armor straight on near the gun, you can see it gets down to around 265. Now that's still going to be very, very effective against lower tier tanks, but maybe there are some tier 10s that will have no problems going through this, or a lot of tanks are going to be firing gold and have no problems going through it. So it used to have armor behind it. As you can see, there are areas with 250 millimeters behind the spaced armor, but closer to the gun there's no armor behind the spaced armor. So if you've got a high penetration gun, this may be, if it's hull down, where you want to shoot it. But it can be a pain in the butt to pen from the front, unless it's exposing its lower glacis, because the lower glacis is extremely weak. It's only 183 millimeters thick, so you're going to be able to go through this even with tier 8s if you're facing this monster on the battlefield. So you really, really want to try and keep your lower glacis hidden if you're playing at 263, and if you're playing against one, this is where you want to shoot it if it's exposed at all. Now, the downside is it's got no side or rear armor. Side armor is only 80, and the tracks give it another 20 millimeters of spaced armor, so it gets up to 100 if you're shooting at the tracks, but aim above the tracks, it's only 80 millimeters thick, and, you know, a lot of guns are going to be able to pen that with HE, and the rear of the tank is only 50 millimeters. Now, it's open top, and that means that on top of the tank, it's only about 34 in the engine deck. Top of the chassis is only about 51, so RT will one-hit kill you. I've been one-hit killed many, many times by RT while playing the 263. It is annoying, but this tank is fast and it's mobile enough to keep tanks from being able to get to your side and rear, but that's where you want to be shooting it, and failing that, then what you want to do is try and get the lower glacis. But if this tank is hull down, it can be a pain in the butt, absolute pain in the butt to pen from the front. So it's fast, it's mobile, it's got very, very good frontal armor. The gun has got an historically, as I said, inaccurate 5.6 rounds a minute. And that basically gives you 3,216 DPM. 3,216 DPM, and that's before you add equipment, crew skills, and consumables into the mix. Now, if you have those on the tank, you can get your rate of fire to around 6 rounds a minute. Absolutely crazy. The penetration is 290. So you've got standard ammo of 290, 550 alpha, which doesn't seem high for a tier 10, but you've got to take that rate of fire into consideration. The premium ammo gets you up to 330 millimeters of penetration, 550 damage, so very, very good. And not only that, but it's a Russian gun, and it's 130 millimeter, and its aim time is an incredible 2.4 seconds. So the aim time is very, very good. It matches the rate of fire well, but the thing that's really, really amazing about the gun on this tank is its accuracy, which gets 0.31. It's got German accuracy, 0.31 accuracy. So armor, fast, or frontal armor, it's fast, it's mobile, got a high top speed, high rate of fire, high DPM, decent aim time, and very good accuracy. What's not to love? So, as I say, it does have a couple of problems. First of all, as I mentioned, the armor, lower glacis is terrible, the side and rear is terrible, it's very weak to HE, RT will one-shot you. The alpha is considered low for a tier 10, but I don't mind that because the rate of fire is so good. The major downside, I suppose, to the tank is the fact it doesn't have a turret, and also the gun depression is only 4 degrees, so you've only got 4 degrees of gun depression, which means trying to use it as a hill warrior is quite difficult. And not only that, but the gun arc, unfortunately, is very, very narrow, so you could only have just a couple of degrees left and right. So if you've got a fast moving target, it means that they're going to get out of your gun arc, and you're going to have to move the hull of your tank, which breaks your camo rating, in order to get your gun on target. And by the time you get your gun on target and go through the aim time, then they've moved again, and you've got to break your gun arc, move the hull of the tank to try and keep them within shooting distance. So the gun arc is very, very narrow, and the gun depression is very, very poor. So that means sometimes it can be a bit of a pain in the ass to play. So anyway, we are going to go. I might start this off on ×2 because this is quite a long replay. Initially, we're here on Prokhorovka in a very, very tier 10 game. The majority of tanks on either side are tier 10s, with a smattering of tier 8 light tanks and 1 tier 9 and 1 tier 8. So very, very, very tier 10 game. Now, initially I was going to go hill, And then I noticed that our IS-7s are coming over here, and then I figured, well, with no RT, Hill is viable, but on the other hand, I've got no gun depression, so therefore, I'm not going to go Hill. This is one of my early games in the Object 263. In fact, this is one of my oldest ace tankers that I had to bring to you. But we're finally getting around to it, and I've decided instead I'm going to go over to the one line, and we're going to be doing some sniping now. I like to play this tank a little bit more aggressively. Unfortunately, an enemy IS-7's just taken out our T-49, so there goes one of our eyes, and the enemy 1375 is patrolling middle. I go for a shot at distance, and that probably missed because he's not dead. Enemy T-49 is spotted. Our IS-7 is pushing up aggressively, and he's taking a hell of a lot of damage. But we've killed the enemy T-49. However, our IS-7 goes down, and yeah, that was not a good trade. We traded a top-tier IS-7 for a T-49, Tier 10 for a Tier 8. But I've advanced because, as I say, I don't like playing like a sniper. I don't like playing... If I've got a TD that has armor and mobility, I don't like playing it like a TD, like a traditional TD. I don't like sniping. I end up having to do a lot of sniping in this game, but I'm quite far advanced. I'm not using any pushes, just moving up, and I really, really, really want to kill this 1375 because he's annoying. Oh, no, he's back. We're swinging around. And oh, that was a cheeky shot. That really was a cheeky shot. But we've killed the 1375, so their T-49 is down and the 1375 is down. And I feel a little bit more comfortable now with both of their scouts out of the game. I can advance and be a little bit more aggressive. We've got a T-110E5 in the dip over to my right, so swinging around, looking for shots into the middle. Gonna push up, maybe use these pushes just for a little bit of extra cover. And there's an enemy 263, and he's giving me a side. We aim for a side, and he turns, and unfortunately, there we go. Even my 290 millimeters of penetration fails to pen the front of an enemy Object 263. So that's how good the armor is. We go for a shot in the lower glacis, the mouse, miss, but end up tracking him. That was a little bit fortunate, but yeah, we could overmatch the side armor on the enemy Object 263, and that's the shot I was going for, but he turned just as I fired, and we hit the front, so we couldn't pen. But in the meantime, looking for shots here. So we've only done 263 damage so far, only picked up 400 assistance damage, so just, I'm top tier. I want to be playing on the front line. I want to be playing a little bit more aggressively because it's my responsibility. So you can see me adjusting the hull of the tank because the gun arc is quite narrow, and constantly you got to adjust the hull just to make sure that the enemy tank stays within your gun arc. But we were able to kill the T-110E4 for kill number 2. And yeah, I'm just sitting here waiting for shots of opportunity now. I should explain something to you guys if my play seems a little bit erratic, or if there are moments where I seem to go AFK and my reticule isn't moving like just now. While I was playing this game, there were noises from the front garden, and I was kind of getting up and down to check to see what was happening, and I couldn't see anything, so you know, that's kind of what was happening, why I go AFK occasionally. But we get one shot into the T-110E5 at distance, and unfortunately miss the next one, but you can see the rate of fire. He's advancing, he's still advancing, and we're able to get another shot in at distance, and another 542. I'm rolling quite low on a lot of these rolls, but he gets taken out. So 2 kills, and all of a sudden we're up to 1700 damage, so 2 nice shots into the T-110E5. Top tier heavy taken out. Enemy IS-7, swing around, and we've got not much to shoot at. Lower glacis, and there we go. Nice 561. Slightly high roll. But you can see how quickly the damage can build up here. So, Pershing, not much to shoot at. We've got his turret. Is he going to poke? He is going to poke, and there we go. We get a shot in for 517. Another low roll just as he disappears. So within a couple of seconds, literally within a couple of seconds, we're up to almost 3k damage, and that's how quickly this damage can build up. Mouse has reappeared, but at this moment in time, I'm looking at the minimap and I'm seeing enemy tanks coming down the other flank. We've lost the other flank. The gorilla is about to die over there. I get some assistance damage on the mouse, but I'm wondering what to do. You can see me swinging around. I'm wondering, should I aim for the middle? Should I try and cover the 1-2 lines, or should I relocate? And I decide I've got to relocate. I've got to relocate. So Our IS-7 is falling back, our T-110E3 is falling back, but you know, some good play by the T-44 on our team. He's the lowest tier tank on our team, and he sees the danger. He's coming back, and he's not charging in. He's trying to spot the tanks coming across the railway line. So if the T-44 on the minimap stays where he is, stays hull down, just spots the tanks, that's exactly what he seems to be doing. If he can spot the tanks coming across the railway lines, then I can support him. So tanks in the middle, tanks coming across the railway lines, aim. And as I say, the aim time is nice, so we get a nice shot into the IS-7. He's going to think twice about poking, but around about this time, my doorbell rings, and it rings once, and then it stops. And I ignore it. And for the next sequence of play, for the next couple of minutes, my doorbell will ring, stop, and then, you know, I don't know who's there. I shout out, come in, or well, I shout out who's there, or I'll be there in a minute, but we track the Pershing, go for a blind shot in his last known position. So yeah, this is going to turn into what I would call an AFK tanker. You can see me AFK here. I'm AFK because my doorbell just rang and I'm shouting, "I'll be there in a minute!" And then there's silence. Okay, alright. So swinging around, looking to try and do more damage, and yeah, I mean, it's not an amazing game. We've done 3.3k damage, and this IS-7's hull down. I'm looking, feathering the targets for shots, but yeah, okay, alright. I'm a little bit flustered because, as I say, there's noise outside, and on occasion my doorbell rings, but we take out the enemy IS-7, we swing around, and once again, you can see me, you know, switching to one position, and then that's because I'm shouting over my shoulder. My doorbell's just rang. I'm going to be there in a minute. But okay, give me a minute, guys. Give me a minute. All right, let's get back to this game. So yeah, it's very, very strange. As I say, this is one of the first games I played in the IS-263. I really, really do like this tank. So E100, not giving me much to shoot at. He's turning his turret. I'm wondering, oh, he's turned it a little bit more. Nah. Okay, no shot. I thought maybe I might be able to sneak one in there, but T-44 is doing an amazing job spotting the tanks coming across the railway lines, and I'll just try and support him. E100's poking, no, got nothing. IS-7, again, hull down. I've got nothing to shoot at. I mean, I might have miracle. I might be able to hit his cupolas, you know, with an absolute miracle shot, but it's not going to happen. Oh, E100's back. Swing around. Okay, he's tracked and he gives me the side of his turret, so 601. Okay, nice high roll. Look at the rate of fire. I'm reloaded, but he was backing down. I decide not to go for another shot, but yeah, not much to shoot at here. Okay, alright. So at this stage, I believe my doorbell rings again sometimes around now. And I shout, I'll be there in a minute. I'll be there in a minute. Yeah. So I seem to be AFK. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I was shouting, I was shouting, sticking my head around the door. Couldn't see who it was, but I'll be there in a minute. But I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed. I'm playing a game, leave me alone. And then the doorbell starts ringing constantly. Ring, 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 ring. And I'm starting to get incredibly annoyed, and I'm AFK. You know, I'm shouting, I'll be there in a minute, but the doorbell keeps ringing. Ring, 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 ring. So, okay, alright, I've gone AFK now. I'm AFK Ace Tanker. So, I've gone to answer the door, and it turns out it's my 2-year-old niece, and she's with her granddad, my father. And Grandad is holding her up so she can ring the bell because she's discovered the joys of ringing doorbells. Ring, 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 ring. Even as I answer the door and the door is open, ring, 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 ring. And she's having great fun. So I ask her what she wants and she goes, something nice. And I say, well, you know where to find it. I'm busy here, but you know where to find something nice. So she runs into the kitchen, And she pulls open my snack drawer and she pulls out a bar, and I said, okay, there you go, something nice. I'm AFK. And she goes, no. And I go, what do you mean no? And she goes, I want nicer. So I have nicer bars, more expensive bars, but they're up in the press, so I had to get her something nicer. And then I asked her, was she happy? And she goes, yes. And I say, can I get back to my game now? And she goes, no. And she points to the nicer bars up in the press, and she wants one for her brother. But finally she gets her brother's bar and her own, and she decides to go. And I finally get back to the game, and I'm wondering what the hell happened. Okay, alright, so the score is 9-10. Alright, and we miss a shot on the side of the E100, and all of a sudden my look has disappeared. Oh, that interruption. So, back from AFK, side of the turret in the E100, 607 damage. Okay, and yeah, as I say, my granddad, and my niece are leaving. They're shutting the door behind them, and I'm back to playing. So, whew, alright. So yeah, I didn't think this was going to be an ace. We're on 5k damage, but that AFK I thought cost me and cost us the game. We're losing 10-12. Enemy team have 5 tanks, we have 3. 4 of the enemy team are very nasty tier 10 TDs, so yeah, I'm down to 1 round of regular ammunition left. I've picked up 4 kills, 5.2k damage, but yeah, I thought the AFK cost us the game. So alright, FV103 able to take him out, but that's going to get me spotted because 103B has appeared from nowhere, and I get shot in the side from an Object 263. So, as I say, no side armor, takes out my engine. You can see where the shot goes straight in there. So I'm turning my tank to face the enemy 263. We take out the STRV-103B. Someone goes for a blind shot, but the alarm is just gone. There are only 1 minute 50 seconds left of this game left. 3 tanks left on the enemy team. IS-7 in the distance, not giving me much to shoot at. He's hull down, waiting for him to come up. And our T110E3 takes him out. So, alright, there we go. We gotta go for it. 1 minute and 30 seconds left. I've got to go for it. I'm on 5 kills. And it's time to go. And you can see the acceleration here. We're up to 40 kilometers an hour. So you will reach the 55, but you need to be on favorable ground. And I'm knocking down trees, going slightly uphill here. So, but still, you can't sneeze at 43 kilometers an hour on the flat with the Object 263. It's still quite fast and mobile for a TD. So we're on the hunt. 2 enemy TDs left. I know that they're both very, very nasty, have very, very nasty guns. The Grill 15 has not been spotted yet, but there's a good chance, at least I'm reckoning there's a good chance that they're both down here. And we're just advancing, trying to find the enemy before the timer runs out. There's only 45 seconds left, and yeah, I'm cursing the fact I had to go AFK, because maybe the result of this game could have been different had I not gone AFK. But we're hunting down enemy tanks, only half a minute left. Need to find the Grill, need to find the 263, and no sign. I'm not being spotted, but I'm not spotting anyone. And I'm wondering where the 263 is. It's fast enough to have relocated, and then I get shot. And it was a nice ambush. I told you the camo rating on this tank is quite good, so you can see we're deliberately aiming for the lower glacis, get 1 shot in. He shoots me in the lower glacis, but I like this tank. I should have a decent rate of fire. He's angling, and yeah, we take him out for kill number 6, just as the counter finishes, and we never find the Grill 15, who was obviously hiding in the corner. So it was a flaming draw, but it was my first ever AFK ace tanker, at least AFK for a portion of the game, and for the rest of the game I was being annoyed by constant doorbell ringing and noises outside my house. But yeah, I don't know, I promised to bring you the first ace in any tank to the channel, you know, whether it's a good game or a bad game. I don't know whether you class that one as a good one, but you know, we did ace it, and we ended up picking up high caliber and Top Gun as well, but just, I don't know, could the game have been different had I not had to go AFK or been annoyed? But we finished top on XP with 797, which doesn't seem high, but we did pick up heroic medals, so that isn't our total XP, but 7,000 damage done, 6 kills, and we ended up with 466 extra XP because of the battle achievements, and that left me on 1,263, so 1,263 XP was enough to pick up the ace tanker. 27 shots fired, hit 19, and pen 15. Now, I was very disappointed with this because this is, as I say, a gun that has 0.31 accuracy, but yet it didn't show it here. It really didn't show it in the game, and quite often you're not going to be firing when fully aimed, so your accuracy is not going to be as good. The reason you're not fully aimed is because of the gun depression and the narrow gun arc, which are the two annoying features about the tank. I don't care that I don't have a turret. I don't care that I don't have side or rear armor. I enjoy the tank that much, but the gun arc and the gun depression do hurt it. We damaged 10, destroyed 6, did 3,291 assistance damage, and finished up with, because we ran out of standard AP, we ended up having to fire premium ammo. We ended up with earning 77 total, or total amount for battle, 83,000, but because of ammo costs mainly and having to fire some premium rounds, we finished up with 28,000 credits, which again, not too bad in a tier 10, but it was a new toy, brand new toy for me. I was enjoying my games in it, and that's why it's not at times 2. So, as I say, this is one of the early games, one of the first games I played in the tank, and yeah, I was really, really enjoying it, really liking it. But anyhow, 263 is done. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.